it would have been like. I know that our plans to play The Sims together, or rather for me to play The Sims while you watched, well, that plan kind of didn't exactly work out. Sure, I could have waited until I saw you next to play again, but I couldn't help myself. I was kind of eager to start our life together. I knew you probably didn't care to sit there as I played anyways, so it's probably better that it worked out like this, that all you have to do is sit through me telling you the story of our stupid little Sims life. As you saw from the brief gameplay that you were present for, the two housemates that had been randomly dropped into the house together didn't talk at all on the first day in the game. Believe it or not, well after I had left your house and was just playing by myself, our situation continued like this for the next 3 days. You always worked late, and I always seemed to be just waking up as you rushed out the door every morning to get to the arena on time. Each day I exited my bedroom, though, it was met by the smell of freshly cooked apple pancakes, made special by Chef Jordan for the girl he had never even spoken to. The Thursday of that week was Leisure Day, the designated summer holiday that each in-game season has. We both got the day off work, so even though we had stayed largely unacquainted with each other so far in the game, I decided to send our little Sim selves to the festival in the park. It was really nice. Unfortunately, we had arrived just as the hot dog eating contest had ended, but we still got in quite the heated water balloon fight before getting snow cones. I got raspberry, and you got one called Blizzard, whatever that means. We followed it all up with a greeting card photo that, upon arriving home, was separately placed on both of our dressers, because we slept in 2 different rooms. But we both put a copy of the picture up, and I don't blame us. It was definitely a day to remember. Later that night, we took a cab to the beach and sat on the sand while looking up at the stars. I hope you actually got to see a shooting one that time. Even though we both had work the next day, around midnight we decided to go swimming in the ocean. The water was ice cold, and I probably splashed you about 17 times before we finally got out. This was our first date. It was also the first night you kissed me, leaning in as we stood in the middle of our little kitchen, little pretend fireworks splashing around us. And then, a little bit breathless, we both went off to try to get some sleep, parting ways to retire to our much too separate beds. The next morning, I again woke up right as the time for you to go to work, and though I was still met with the smell of pancakes like I had each morning, this time you weren't so eagerly rushing out the door. You instead were waiting at the foot of my bed, and as I rubbed the sleep from my eyes, you asked me to be your girlfriend. You just couldn't wait to ask me after the day we had previously spent before. I'd say it was a pretty accurate timeline, no? My former bedroom swiftly became an activity room where I wrote my books and where you kept your guitar, and my bookshelf that you kept stocked with your almost daily bookstore runs for me. Our second greeting card photo moved from my dresser to the front room's coffee table, and from that night on, we no longer required separate beds. No more than 3 days later, I woke up to horrible morning sickness, and even had to retreat from my writing to go throw up a few hours later. I soon realized that I was pregnant, and excitedly shared the news as you got home from work. A few sim days later, I went into labor in the middle of the night. How convenient. And you rushed me to the hospital in our little beat-up SUV. We welcomed our first child into the world that night. You, ever the sucker for dramatic timing, proposed to me as we crossed the threshold of our house with our newborn son, Thomas Joseph Crawley, the sweet little boy that was blessed with your eyes and got stuck with my hair, and was born friendly and athletic, just like our children surely would be. We didn't get a full night's sleep for a good long while after that. Tommy was quite insistent on keeping us up at all hours of the night. I was on the forced maternity leave, so I stayed home with the baby, but twice you took off work to give me a break from mom duty. Although real-world me was technically the one who made you do that, I really appreciated it. We got married on Thomas's first birthday. He was transforming from an infant to a toddler. He was moving on from one stage of his life to the next, just as his parents were moving on to the next of theirs. The wedding was supposed to be held outside. I had set up a little arch and seating and everything. But it had snowed a lot that day, and it was much too deep to access any of my festivities. So everything had to be moved inside our cramped little house, and with everyone gathered around and Thomas asleep in his crib in the corner, we exchanged rings right there in the kitchen. That tiny little kitchen where you would kiss me for the first time. After the wedding, I shut off my laptop. That is to say, my real-world laptop, and tried to force my Adderall-filled brain to sleep. Though it came to no avail, you must applaud my efforts. Not staying up all night just in order to play out our little life in The Sims together, that took some willpower. I know that it isn't accurate, or at least I hope it's not, because that would mean I'm getting pregnant by accident. I still loved watching those two little people who just happened to share our names and looked vaguely like us start their life together, especially when all that stuff they experienced seemed so painfully far down the road for the life-size people on the other side of the screen. Because full days don't last 10 minutes out here in the real world, and there certainly isn't a triple fast-forward mode. But watching little Paige and little Jordan do all that stuff, well, it made waiting for the real thing that much more manageable. And if a life together, solely comprised of ones and zeros, can be so undeniably beautiful, imagine what it would be like when we actually go to a festival together, or sit on the beach watching the stars, or go swimming in the ocean at midnight, or bring home our first child. The one that is blessed with your eyes and gets stuck with my hair. Or when we are actually standing in our little kitchen in our cramped little house, exchanging rings as everyone crowded around us. I don't even have the words to describe how beautiful it will be. It would be perfect. It will be perfect.